Hello YouTube, it is finally arrived, the Immersion RC Vortex. So it arrived today from Get FPV, paid £36 extra in customs charges. I also bought the GoPro mount, as you can see here. I'm currently using the SJ cam in there, but it fits the GoPro nicely, but I'm recording on the GoPro at the moment. So, and with that you also get the lead, which plugs straight into the board, down into here, into a clean 5 volt. The lead comes all the way up. I've mounted it round through the hole there and up into here, so you can plug straight into the GoPro on the side here. And that's brilliant because you save the weight of the GoPro battery, so that the quad runs a lot faster. I'm using the Turnigy 1800 mAh 4-cell batteries. Got one other 1800 mAh just here, and I've also got the 1300 mAhs just here as well. Now these are a little bit lighter. You don't get as long a flight time, but they do certainly go some with the smaller batteries, as you'll see in the test flight a bit later on. A couple of things I wanted to run through on the quad. I've not seen anyone else running an Orange RX or a Lemon RX receiver on YouTube. It all seems to be the FreeSky Taranis stuff. I have got a DX7, as you've probably seen in my other videos. Really like the transmitter, so I don't want to go and spend a load of money on another one. So I have ordered the Lemon RX with the satellite. So this is just temporary, this cheap one that I've got in here, but it seems to be working pretty well, as you'll see in my test flight coming up later on. First thing is the mount here for the GoPro. It's pretty easy to put together. As you can see, it comes with all the fixtures and fittings. You just got these sort of plastic covers here over the side, and then a nut and bolt which goes through and holds it on here. Ooh, you can't see my aerials in the way. Just here and here. It's really self-explanatory, really. So yeah, you do have to remove the sides to get obviously to here, and to run your 5 volt in this side here as well. First, setting up of the Orange RX to bind the receiver. I'll do it for you now quickly. So the Orange RX receiver, we've got the wire coming from the vortex into the throttle, and our bind plug is in the bind stroke battery port there. Now what we want to do, in goes our battery, and you can see we're starting to flash, so we're ready to bind. Then you get your transmitter ready. Pull out your bind plug. Now this is important to do it this way, and I'll explain why in a second. Pull out your bind plug, press bind. Okay, so now as you can see, we're all bound now. Now what that bind does, by removing the bind plug before you press bind on the transmitter, that sets your failsafe to whatever your transmitter is currently on. I have the throttle down and this in the neutral position. Now the reason I do that is, like I explained, the motors, if you crash your quad and it ends up, you know, sideways, upside down, the motors are going to try and spin to keep the quad level. And what that can do is that will burn your motors out, because obviously they can't move, and that will burn your motors out. And I've done a few motors this way, so that it's very important to set this up so that doesn't happen. And that's just my personal preference. You guys might want it to kind of hover around if you lose connection, but me, I'd rather it come crashing to the ground and deal with any damage rather than burn the motors out, because that, like I say, that has happened to me before. So now we're all bound up. I'm not going to go through the setup process because there's plenty of videos on YouTube explaining how you can do that. But what I will go through, on my particular transmitter, I had to change some of these settings. Now you can see here the throttle, the minimum position, I had to have that on 100. I had to basically up the values to 125 on the throttle, and on the rudder 125 on each, and that was just to, otherwise the quad wouldn't arm, there wasn't enough movement. As well as that, I also had to, more importantly, before that, is the reverse. Now I had to reverse the rudder, as you can see there, and the aileron. And you know, when you first set the vortex up, it asks you to yaw left, you know, pitch down, pitch right, and these values were reversed, and it wouldn't let me do it. You'd think it would automatically, you know, sort that out, but it wouldn't. I had to manually go in and reverse the aileron and the rudder. So hopefully that can help a few people out there. Now the next thing I'm going to go through is some clean flight settings to adjust the what we spoke about there with the motors arming, because what will happen as soon as you yaw down and right, the motors will start to spin at a very slow speed, but they will start to spin. Now I wanted to turn that off because, again, if you lose connection and the motors are armed, there's a chance that it could burn out. So for me personally, I don't like the motors to spin, just because I'm scared of these, you know, motors burning out, as it's happened to me before. So I'm just going to run through clean flight and how I done that connecting to the Mac. Okay, so click connect on clean flight. There we are. Go to configuration, and there you've got motor stop. Don't spin the motors when armed. Make sure that that is enabled, and that will stop your motor spinning while armed. Now further down here we've got fail-safe settings on RX signal loss. Leave that enabled because we've just been through that on the receiver there. Then if we go into the receiver here, the aux here, aux 2, just make sure that that moves up and down, and that will change your flight modes by a flight mode switch, rather than you having to go through the settings. I had to manually set this again, so just thought I'd show you that here. Don't forget to click save once you've finished.